Hi, thanks for being with me today. I hope you're keeping all right. I've been thinking a little bit this week about what it means for us to really know God. We live in an age where knowledge is power, don't we? Where our access to knowledge is extraordinary. If you're my sort of age and you grew up as a child in a pre-internet age, then you will understand, like I do, just how miraculous this kind of Google world we live in actually is. Knowledge is power. We have access to as much information as we want through the internet. We might read books, we might listen to podcasts, we might watch YouTube videos, we might go to conferences. The ability to develop knowledge is quite extraordinary these days. But in Matthew chapter 11, verses 25 to 27, Jesus says something really interesting. He says, "Lord of heaven and earth, I thank you because you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and revealed them to infants," as if knowledge doesn't come through wisdom and intelligence. Knowledge of God is something altogether different. So I've been kind of pondering that this week. And I think what Jesus is saying here is that knowledge of God, he's not kind of anti-intellectual. He's not saying that we shouldn't pursue sort of academic knowledge and head knowledge. He's not making an anti-intellectual statement, but I think what he's saying is that to know God is a different form of knowing than that. That to know God, to truly know God, is not about research, it's about relationship, living in a relationship with God. So I think there's a sense in which Jesus is saying in Matthew 11, 25, 27, that we need to unlearn our way into deeper discipleship. And I just want to explore three ideas that come out of that passage for me with you today. And the first is this, that I think Jesus is saying in Matthew 11 that God is not a puzzle to solve, but a person to trust. We often think of God like a riddle. We think of God like a puzzle, as if God is some sort of abstract idea. And if we read enough books, if we absorb enough information, if we go to church often enough and listen to enough sermons, then we'll figure God out. But God isn't a topic to be learned. Knowledge of God isn't something that we can earn. Knowledge of God is a gift from him. Matthew 11, 25. At that time, Jesus said, "I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and revealed them to infants." So here we have an astonishing reversal of the idea of knowledge. The idea that actually the wise and the intelligent people often miss the reality of God. We see that, don't we, in the Bible? Like the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who kind of understood so much about theology and about the Jewish tradition, but they missed Jesus. They missed their Messiah because they were so caught up with the kind of intellectualism. And it was the simple people, it was the fishermen, it was the tax collectors, it was the prostitutes, it was the adulterers, it was the lepers who somehow got Jesus because they fell into a relationship with him. But that's a gift. That's a gift from God. It's not that all these people somehow earned knowledge of God. It's that Jesus gifted a relationship with them. And in this passage in Matthew 11, Jesus is saying, that God has chosen to reveal himself to infants. Now, I think there's something about children that, they are able to rest in awe and wonder and mystery. Children don't need to understand everything intellectually. They just kind of get awe and wonder, and they are happy with awe and wonder. They're happy with mystery. They're happy with not knowing, but just kind of being in that moment, being lost in a moment of awe and wonder. And I think that we lose that actually as we get older. As we become adults, we want a rational explanation for everything. We want logical arguments behind everything. And I think the fact that God hides things from the wise and the intelligent and reveals it to the infants is a sort of metaphor that somehow we need to recover a sense of awe and wonder. We need to learn to fall in love again with the mystery of God and not try to understand him all the time, but just to rest in a relationship that is built on mystery. We will never fully understand God, and that's okay. It's okay just to enjoy the mystery. The older I get and the longer I've been a Christian, the less I understand about God, the less I understand about Christianity. And it just all becomes much more mysterious to me. And the more I know, the less I know. And I'm happy with that. And I hope that you are too. Secondly, I think that this passage in Matthew 11 suggests that Jesus interprets God to us. If we want to know God, then we can only do so through Jesus' interpretation of him to us. In verse 27, Jesus says, "No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him." Now, I think this is a real challenge to us, because what Jesus is saying here is that we don't get to define who God is. We can't pick and mix. We live in a kind of age, don't we, where people develop pick and mix spirituality. They'll take a bit of Christianity and they'll add in a bit of astrology, and they'll add in a kind of belief about karma and the role of fate and the universe, and they might take a little bit of these ideas and those ideas and a bit of crystals and a bit of healing and a bit of all sorts of things, and kind of mush it all together to get a sort of spiritual system for themselves. But we don't get to do that. That's what this is saying. We can't democratize God. We can't come up with our own ideas about God just to suit our lifestyle. We can't create a God who makes us feel good. We can't create a God who just sort of justifies how we live our lives. God is not a crowdsourced project. God is God, and the truth about God is revealed to us in and through Jesus. That's what he says in verse 27. No one knows the Father except anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. This isn't even about mutual discovery. Jesus knows who God is, the Father is, and he chooses to reveal him to us. This is a sovereign unveiling of the Almighty God to us through the person of Jesus. So discipleship as a Christian, then, coming to know God, is not about us developing our own ideas about God. It's actually letting Jesus rewrite our mental map of what God looks like, what truth looks like, what love looks like, and how life works. We've got to stop interpreting God through our own story and start interpreting our story through God. God is the unchanging truth, and we need to interpret our lives by that truth. We've got to stop taking our lives as the focal point and then building a picture of God around it. Does that make sense? And then thirdly, I think that this passage from Matthew 11, Jesus teaches us that actually humility is the prerequisite for knowing God. Humility is more than just a sort of moral virtue. Humility is more than just a sort of social posture that we take. Humility is the condition for us to access the truth about knowing God. in life, we want to grow stronger. We want to achieve great things. We want to master skills. We want to become experts in things, whether that's in our hobbies or in our relationships or in our work or in our spirituality or whatever. But actually, humility requires us not to grow larger, but humility, in a sense, requires us to grow smaller, to become more and more childlike. The paradox is that the lower we go, the more clearly we see. In Matthew 11:25, Jesus says, "You have hidden these things from the wise and the intelligent and revealed them to infants." So it seems to me that to know God requires a radical humility, and that isn't achieved through our own strength. It's achieved through staying small before God, if you like. True humility is worked out through staying small before God. So, I think in this day and age, we crave knowledge. We have access to all sorts of knowledge. We also crave authenticity in our relationships and in our knowing. We want what we know. We want to know is truth. We've got to give up trying to earn that. We've got to, in a sense, give up trying to earn a relationship with God, trying to develop enough sort of head knowledge that we can say we know God, to stop striving and instead to surrender to God in humility and to build a relationship with him. And through that relationship, God reveals himself more and more to us. So in a sense, Christian discipleship isn't about knowing more. It's about letting ourselves be known by God. And as that happens, so our knowledge of God then increases. It's about handing over our desire to control our lives. It's about handing over our desire for mastery. It's about handing over even our desire to grow stronger and stronger in the faith. And it's just about saying, here I am, Lord, teach me like I know nothing. And if you teach me like I know nothing, and if I can take a posture before God where I know nothing, then it is then that we can begin to know God. It all begins in humility. It all begins in relationship. It all begins in stopping to strive and somehow surrendering ourselves before God and just saying, here I am, reveal to me what you want to reveal, and keep hidden what you want to keep hidden, and just to be happy with that mystery and that process. I hope that's helpful today. Thank you so much for being with me, and let me know in the comments below if that's been helpful. And I look forward to being with you again really soon. Take care. Bye-bye.